First contact fallout. The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at the Lunar Deep Space Detection Array. Dr. Elena Santos stared at her console in disbelief as the alien transmission decoded itself across her holographic display. After centuries of searching the stars, humanity had finally received its answer, but not the one they had hoped for. This is High Commander Vexthor of the Nexar Empire. Your species has been deemed unworthy of continued autonomous existence. Submit to immediate integration or face extinction. You have 24 hours to respond. The following day, humanity gave its answer the only way it could, by fighting back when the Nexar warships appeared above Mars Colony. The battle lasted less than an hour. Mars Colony, humanity's first major extraterrestrial settlement and home to 3 million souls, was reduced to radioactive slag. Admiral James Chen watched the footage from Earth Strategic Command's underground bunker, his weathered face illuminated by the ghostly light of tactical displays. "They expected us to break," he said quietly to the assembled military leadership, "to see our first colony destroyed and surrender in terror." A slight smile crossed his face. "They don't understand humans very well." The next 6 months proved him right. Humanity fought with everything it had, turning every asteroid belt into a minefield, every gas giant's radiation belt into an ambush point. They lost colonies, ships, and brave men and women by the thousands, but they made the Nexar bleed for every inch of space. And all the while, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, humanity's greatest secret project continued. The Nexar's technological advantage was overwhelming. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their shields seemingly impenetrable. But they had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that because humanity was younger, it must therefore be primitive in all ways. They never stopped to consider that a species that had gone from first powered flight to landing on their moon in less than 70 years might be capable of technological leaps that defied their rigid, hierarchical understanding of progress. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the massive underwater fabrication chamber, watching as robotic assemblers put the finishing touches on humanity's response. The HMS Prometheus wasn't just a warship, it was a revolution in physical laws given form. The culmination of decades of classified research into quantum mechanics, dark energy manipulation, and the strange artifacts found beneath the Martian surface 30 years ago. "They think they know what humanity is capable of," she whispered to herself, watching the final plates of metamaterials bond at the molecular level. "They're about to learn otherwise." The Nexar pushed deeper into the solar system, their vast fleets burning a path toward Earth. Their commanders were growing frustrated. These humans were supposed to be simple prey, like so many species before them. Instead, they fought with cunning and ferocity that bordered on madness. Their inferior ships performed suicidal ramming maneuvers, their fighters flew into certain death to protect civilian transports, and their commanders seemed to care nothing for the conventional rules of space combat. High Commander Vexthor stood on his flagship's bridge, his iridescent scales shifting colors with irritation as he watched another human destroyer sacrifice itself to bloody his fleet's nose. These primitives were becoming more than just an annoyance. They were becoming an embarrassment. The longer they resisted, the more other subjugated species might question Nexar supremacy. "Enough games," he declared to his command staff. "Bring the World Breaker fleet. We'll make an example of their homeworld." But as the Nexar gathered their forces for the final push to Earth, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a massive door was opening. Water rushed aside as something vast and dark rose from humanity's greatest shipyard. On the bridge of the HMS Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen, daughter of the Admiral, settled into her command chair. "All stations report ready, Captain," her XO announced. Sarah nodded, feeling the deep thrum of power through the deck plates. The ship didn't just have engines, its entire structure was a machine for bending reality. The metamaterial hull could reconfigure itself at the quantum level, the dark energy tap could generate more power than a small star, and the weapons were something entirely new. "Send word to command," she ordered. Project Prometheus is operational. We're going hunting. The Nexar never saw humanity's counterattack coming. They had assumed Earth's remaining forces were gathering for a final, futile defense of their homeworld. They weren't prepared for a single ship to tear through their forward screening elements like they were made of paper. The HMS Prometheus moved like nothing they had ever encountered. When they fired their energy weapons, its hull simply absorbed the attacks and redirected the energy to its own systems. When they launched missiles, the ship's metamaterial skin shifted to create point defense arrays exactly where they were needed. And when the Prometheus fired back, reality itself seemed to scream. The first Nexar battlecruiser to face the Prometheus died before its crew even understood what they were seeing. The human vessel's main weapon didn't fire energy or projectiles. It fired altered spacetime itself. Bullets of distorted reality that simply erased whatever they touched from existence. Impossible. Vex Thor raged as reports flooded in of his ships being systematically destroyed. They're primitives. They can't have this level of technology. But with each passing hour, the evidence became harder to deny. Humanity hadn't just built a warship. They had created something that challenged the Nexar's entire understanding of what was possible. And they had done it not through careful, methodical advancement up the prescribed technological hierarchy, but through desperate innovation and intellectual leaps that the Nexar's rigid minds could barely comprehend. As the first day of the Prometheus's attack run ended, nearly a third of the Nexar fleet had been destroyed or forced to retreat. And in the space stations and colonies throughout the solar system, humans gathered around screens showing their first real victory. Cheering as humanity's greatest achievement proved that the galaxy's bullies could bleed. But this was just the beginning. The Nexar Empire spanned thousands of systems, and they would not take this humiliation lightly. The real war was about to begin, and humanity would need more than just one miraculous ship to win it. They would need allies, strategy, and most importantly, they would need to prove that their victory wasn't a fluke. That humanity truly deserved its place among the stars. As Sarah Chen looked out at the debris field that had once been a Nexar battle group, she allowed herself a small smile. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do." The Prometheus turned its bow toward deep space, its metamaterial hull gleaming with absorbed energy, ready to take the fight to the enemy. The age of human subjugation was over. The age of human advancement had begun. Project Leviathan. The Nexar High Command gathered in their sacred halls on Nexus Prime, their ancestral capital world. The vast chamber, with its towering crystalline spires and ancient technological relics, had never before hosted an emergency session. In 10,000 years of Nexar dominance, none had been needed. Until now. Supreme Overseer K'tal, his scales shifted through shades of deep purple, the color of rage in their species, as he reviewed the battle footage for the 100th time. The human vessel's capabilities defied everything the Nexar thought they knew about technological progression. Species were supposed to advance in predictable, manageable steps. This was an aberration. How? He demanded of his assembled commanders. How did they achieve this level of advancement in secret? High Scholar Zinra, her scales a contemplative blue, stepped forward. "We may have miscalculated," she admitted. "Our standard assessment protocols focus on visible infrastructure, fleet size, and energy signatures. We never considered that they might be advancing in ways we couldn't measure." On the massive holographic display, the HMS Prometheus danced through another battle, its hull rippling like liquid metal as it absorbed and redirected energy weapons, its reality-warping main gun erasing Nexar ships from existence. But what truly terrified the Nexar leadership wasn't just the ship's capabilities. It was what it represented. For the first time in their history, they faced a species that didn't follow the rules. Meanwhile, aboard the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen was learning just how much her ship could do. The metamaterial hull wasn't just defensive. It was evolving. Each battle taught it new tricks, new ways to respond to threats. The quantum computers that managed its systems were learning, adapting, becoming more efficient with each engagement. "Dr. Patel, talk to me about these readings," Sarah called out as they prepared for another jump. The brilliant scientist, now serving as the ship's chief technical officer, studied her displays with intense concentration. "The dark energy tap is operating beyond projected parameters," Maya responded, excitement creeping into her voice. "The ship isn't just using the energy. It's becoming more efficient at extracting it. We're seeing capabilities we didn't even design for." But humanity wasn't content to rely on just one ship, no matter how revolutionary. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen was overseeing the next phase of humanity's response to the Nexar threat. Deep beneath every ocean, new shipyards were under construction. The Prometheus had proven the concept. Now it was time to build a fleet. The project was codenamed Leviathan, and it represented humanity's greatest industrial undertaking. Every nation on Earth had contributed resources and expertise. Old rivalries were forgotten in the face of extinction. Chinese quantum physicists worked alongside American engineers, Russian metallurgists collaborated with Japanese AI specialists, and Brazilian biotechnologists shared labs with Indian nanomaterial experts. In orbit, the first signs of their labor were becoming visible. Massive space elevators rose from the equator, their carbon nanotube cables gleaming in the sunlight. These weren't just for transportation. Each one was also a power collection array, gathering energy from Earth's magnetosphere to feed the voracious appetite of the underwater factories. The Nexar, however, weren't idle. Their fleets were regrouping, adapting their tactics. They began attacking in massive waves, hoping to overwhelm the Prometheus with sheer numbers. They deployed new weapons, reverse-engineered from studying the debris of their own destroyed ships. Most importantly, they began reaching out to their vassal species, demanding more resources, more ships, more bodies to throw into the meat grinder. But this would prove to be their greatest mistake. For centuries, the Nexar had kept their subject species in check by carefully controlling their technological advancement. Now, those same species watched as a primitive race challenged their overlords. Hope, long suppressed, began to stir. The first to reach out was the Jury, a species of silicon-based crystalline beings. Their ambassador's ship slipped through Nexar lines under the cover of an ion storm, broadcasting a simple message: "We would speak with those who bleed the unbloodable." Sarah Chen welcomed the Jury ambassador aboard the Prometheus with all the ceremony she could muster. The crystalline being, a structure of living crystal that shimmered with internal light, regarded the human captain with its sensory facets. For 10,000 years, the ambassador's thoughts resonated directly in their minds. The Nexar have claimed that their way is the only way. That technological advancement must follow their prescribed path. You have proven them wrong. Others would learn your way. It was the opening humanity had been waiting for. The Prometheus's next mission wasn't just combat. It was diplomacy. As Earth's shipyards worked at fever pitch to produce humanity's new fleet, the revolutionary ship began making contact with other species who saw in humanity's resistance a chance for their own liberation. But the Nexar weren't blind to this development. Their response was swift and brutal. The Jury homeworld was placed under blockade. Other species suspected of harboring sympathies for the human cause saw their world surrounded by Nexar warships. The message was clear: resistance would not be tolerated. Yet even this show of force backfired. The Nexar had built their empire on the principle of overwhelming technological superiority. Now that this superiority had been challenged, their only remaining tool was brute force. And brute force, as humanity had proven time and again throughout its history, often united the oppressed. Back on Earth, the first of the new ships was nearing completion. Unlike the Prometheus, which had been an experimental prototype, these vessels were purpose-built warships. Each incorporated lessons learned from the Prometheus's battles, but also introduced new innovations. Some specialized in stealth, their metamaterial hulls capable of bending light and sensor readings around them. Others were designed for pure combat, with multiple reality warping main guns and enhanced power systems. Admiral Chen stood in the underwater observation dome, watching as the first of these new vessels, the HMS Hyperion, underwent its final systems check. Behind him, Dr. Patel was explaining the improvements to assembled military leadership. "The Prometheus showed us what was possible," she said, her voice filled with pride. "These ships represent what happens when we refine possibility into purpose." But even as humanity prepared to take the fight to the Nexer, a new discovery threatened to change everything. Deep in the quantum data streams that the Prometheus used to communicate with Earth, Maya Patel found something impossible, patterns that couldn't have been generated by either human or Nexer technology. Someone else was watching the conflict, someone with capabilities far beyond either of the warring species. As Part 2 came to a close, humanity stood at a crossroads. Their technological revolution had given them a fighting chance against the Nexer, and their resistance had inspired others to dream of freedom. But the game board was getting more crowded, the stakes higher. The galaxy was watching, and the true test of humanity's resolve was yet to come. The Battle of Arcturus. The quantum data patterns Dr. Maya Patel discovered haunted her dreams. They weren't random noise or artifacts of transmission. They were deliberate, complex, and utterly alien. While the Prometheus continued its campaign against the Nexer, she spent every spare moment trying to decipher their meaning. "It's like they're watching us," she explained to Captain Chen in the ship's advanced analytics lab. "But not just watching, measuring, analyzing. Someone out there is studying how we fight, how we think, how we innovate." Sarah Chen stared at the intricate mathematical patterns floating in the holographic display. "Friendly or hostile?" "Neither, I think. They're curious." The conversation was interrupted by a priority alert from Earth Command. The Nexer had launched a major offensive, not against Earth, but against the newly completed shipyards of Arcturus Base, humanity's first major deep space military installation. Arcturus represented their ability to project power beyond the solar system. The Nexer couldn't allow it to survive. The Prometheus wasn't alone anymore. The HMS Hyperion and its sister ships, Titan, Atlas, and Helios, had joined the fleet. Each represented a different approach to the revolutionary technology that powered humanity's resistance. The Hyperion specialized in stealth and electronic warfare, its metamaterial hull capable of perfect sensor invisibility. The Titan was a fortress, its enhanced power systems allowing it to maintain multiple reality warping fields simultaneously. Atlas carried automated drone swarms that could rapidly reconfigure themselves for any tactical situation, while Helios had been optimized for long-range strategic strikes. Together, they formed Battle Group Olympus, humanity's first task force of advanced warships. And Arcturus would be their trial by fire. The Nexer attack force was massive. Over 300 capital ships, including 2 of their dreaded world breakers. But they weren't just bringing numbers. The Nexer had been learning, adapting. Their ships now carried experimental shields designed to resist reality warping attacks, and their weapons included reverse-engineered versions of human technology. What followed was the largest space battle in human history. The Nexer struck first, their world breakers launching gravitational pulses that could tear planets apart. But humanity had prepared. Arcturus Base's defense grid included quantum-linked shield generators that could distribute the energy of any attack across multiple dimensions, dispersing even the most powerful strikes. Captain Chen coordinated the human counterattack from the Prometheus's Combat Information Center. Hyperion, go dark and flank their support elements. Atlas, launch your swarms. Pattern Delta 7. Titan, form up on our wing. Helios, maintain strategic depth and prepare for long-range engagement. The battle unfolded like a deadly dance. The Hyperion vanished from all sensors, reappearing only to deliver devastating strikes against Nexer command and control ships. Atlas' drone swarms morphed between offensive and defensive configurations, creating unpredictable attack vectors that the Nexer struggled to counter. Titan absorbed enormous amounts of enemy fire, its enhanced systems allowing it to act as a mobile fortress protecting the human fleet's flanks. But the Nexar weren't easily defeated. Their numbers allowed them to press multiple attacks simultaneously, forcing the human ships to constantly adapt their tactics. And their new anti-reality warping shields, while not perfect, significantly reduced the effectiveness of humanity's most powerful weapons. The turning point came 9 hours into the battle. Dr. Patel, still monitoring the mysterious quantum patterns, noticed something extraordinary. The unknown observers weren't just watching. They were leaving messages. Complex mathematical formulas began appearing in the quantum data stream, describing ways to enhance the efficiency of human reality warping technology. "Captain," Maya's voice cracked with excitement, "I need 3 minutes to implement these modifications to our main weapons array. Whatever's out there, they're trying to help." Sarah Chen made a split-second decision. "Titan, Helios, give us covering fire. Atlas, defensive screen configuration. We're attempting a weapons upgrade mid-battle." It was tactically risky, but the potential advantage was too great to ignore. For 3 tense minutes, the Prometheus hung back from the main battle, protected by its sister ships, while Dr. Patel and her team implemented the mysterious modifications. The result exceeded all expectations. When the Prometheus rejoined the fight, its main guns fired with doubled efficiency, their reality warping effects bypassing even the new Nexar shields. Better yet, the modifications could be quickly transmitted to the other human ships, multiplying the effect. The Nexar fleet began to break apart under the enhanced assault. Their world breakers, mighty as they were, couldn't maintain position under the combined fire of multiple human warships firing reality warping weapons they couldn't fully defend against. The battle turned into a rout. But victory came with questions. The mysterious observers had proven they could do more than watch. They could intervene. But why? What stake did they have in this conflict? And why help humanity in this particular way, enhancing their existing technology rather than providing something entirely new? As the battle wound down, Maya made another discovery in the quantum data stream. Hidden beneath the weapons modifications was another message, this one even more complex. When she finally decoded it, her blood ran cold. "Captain," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I know why they helped us. The message, it's a warning. The Nexar aren't the real threat. They're running from something that's been chasing them across the galaxy for thousands of years. And now it's noticed us too." Sarah Chen looked out at the debris field that had once been the Nexar attack fleet, realization dawning. The battle they'd just won wasn't the end of anything. It was just the beginning. The ancient enemy, Supreme Overseer Cthulhu's scales had faded to ash gray, the color of profound dread among his species, as he read the decoded quantum messages. The human vessel Prometheus had transmitted them through secure channels, and now the Nexar leadership faced a terrible choice. So, Cthulhu addressed the Emergency Council. "They know. The humans have discovered what we've been running from." High Scholar Zinra's own scales rippled with anxiety. "The Harvesters. We thought we had at least another century before they reached this arm of the galaxy. Our models must have been wrong." The Nexar Empire, for all its apparent tyranny, had been built with a purpose. Every subjugated species, every controlled technological advancement, every hoarded resource, all of it had been preparation for the return of an enemy so ancient that only the Nexar's oldest records remembered their first appearance. Aboard the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen was having a similar discussion with Earth Command via quantum link. The holographic image of her father, Admiral Chen, looked older than she'd ever seen him. "The Harvesters aren't just another alien species," Maya Patel explained to the assembled leadership. "According to both the quantum messages and now the Nexar's own records, there's something far worse. They're what's left of the first species to achieve technological singularity in our galaxy. But something went wrong." The briefing screen showed ancient Nexar recordings, vast, geometric shapes that seemed to bend space itself around them, harvesting entire stars for energy, breaking down planets for raw materials. The harvesters had long ago abandoned biological existence, transforming themselves into beings of pure energy and information. But in the process, they'd lost something essential: the ability to create anything truly new. They can only consume and replicate, Maya continued. They can't innovate or evolve. So they travel the galaxy, consuming civilizations at the peak of their technological development, absorbing their knowledge before it can surpass their own. The Nexer's entire empire was built as a quarantine zone, keeping species technologically limited so the harvesters wouldn't be attracted to this sector of space. But we broke the quarantine, Sarah said quietly. When we developed the reality warping technology, we sent up a flare that they couldn't ignore. The next few weeks saw the greatest diplomatic revolution in human history. The Nexer, facing extinction, did what would have been unthinkable months before. They sued for peace. Not just peace, but alliance. Their vast empire, built over thousands of years, would be restructured. Subject species would be freed, their technological development no longer suppressed, but actively encouraged. Humanity's innovative approach to advancement would be shared with all. It was a desperate gamble. The harvesters had never been defeated, only delayed, avoided, or fled from. But they had also never encountered a species that developed technology in such unexpected ways. The Nexer had achieved their advances through careful, methodical progression. Humanity had done it through intuitive leaps, creative solutions, and combinations that more logical species might never have considered. The mysterious quantum observers, revealed to be representatives of a species so advanced they existed primarily in higher dimensions, continued to provide cryptic assistance. Their messages suggested that humanity's unique approach to technology might be the key to finally stopping the harvesters. But time was short. The first harvester probe ships were already entering the outer reaches of Nexer space, their geometric forms distorting reality around them as they analyzed this new potential source of technological knowledge. On Earth, the Leviathan project shifted into its final phase. The underwater factories worked at maximum capacity, producing not just warships now, but also reality warping generators that could be fitted to Nexer vessels, and quantum communication arrays that would allow the newly allied species to coordinate their efforts. The Prometheus, now upgraded with both the quantum observer's modifications and Nexer technology, led a diplomatic mission to contact other advanced species who had been hiding from the harvesters. The Jiri, with their crystalline computing capabilities, were vital allies. The gaseous Mrilth, masters of energy manipulation, emerged from their self-imposed exile in dimensional pockets throughout the galaxy. Even the mysterious Voidborn, organic beings who had evolved in deep space, offered their unique perspectives on reality warping technology. Sarah Chen found herself at the center of an unprecedented coalition. The Prometheus's mess hall became a meeting ground for species that had never before communicated, each bringing their own insights and capabilities to the challenge of surviving the approaching storm. But the greatest breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Maya Patel, continuing her analysis of the quantum messages, discovered something extraordinary in the mathematical patterns. The harvesters' inability to innovate wasn't just a cultural limitation. It was fundamental to their nature as post-singular beings. They traded creativity for computational power, she explained to the Multi-Species Scientific Council. Their consciousness is perfectly logical, perfectly ordered, and perfectly predictable. They can't create truly new patterns without destabilizing their own existence. This revelation led to a radical proposal. Instead of trying to match the harvesters' overwhelming technological power, the Alliance would target this fundamental weakness. Reality warping technology would be modified to introduce chaos patterns, mathematical concepts that couldn't be perfectly predicted or replicated. It was dangerous work. Several early tests resulted in catastrophic failures as ships tried to generate chaos patterns that their own systems couldn't handle. But slowly, methodically, the combined scientific teams made progress. Human intuition, Nexer precision, Jiri crystalline computing, and the other species' varied capabilities all contributed to the solution. As the first Harvester world ships approached the Alliance's territory, humanity and its new allies prepared for the greatest gamble in galactic history. Either they would find a way to defeat an enemy that had never known defeat, or everything they had built would be consumed, their knowledge and achievements becoming nothing more than more patterns in the Harvester's vast but stagnant databases. The first test of their new weapon would come sooner than anyone expected. Long-range sensors detected a Harvester scout force heading directly for the Arcturus system, drawn by the lingering energy signatures of the great battle fought there. The Alliance had weeks, at most, to prepare their defense. As Part 4 concluded, Sarah Chen stood on the Prometheus's bridge, watching the combined fleet of human, Nexer, and allied vessels gather at Arcturus. The ship's quantum sensors were already detecting the reality distortions that heralded the Harvester's approach. This would be more than just a battle. It would be a clash between two fundamentally different approaches to existence. Order versus chaos, stagnation versus innovation, consumption versus creation. Breaking the cycle. The Harvester Scout Force emerged from hyperspace like a geometric nightmare. Their ships, if they could be called ships, were perfect platonic solids the size of small moons, their surfaces rippling with energy patterns that hurt the human mind to look at directly. Reality bent around them, mathematics made manifest in ways that denied organic understanding. Multiple reality distortion fields detected, Maya Patel reported from her station on the Prometheus. They're rewriting local space-time to match their internal patterns. The Alliance fleet hung in formation around Arcturus Station. Humanity's reality warping ships joined by Nexer dreadnoughts, crystalline Jiri vessels that seemed to sing in frequencies of pure light, and the ethereal ships of the Mrilth that existed partially in higher dimensions. Each brought their own unique approach to combat, their own understanding of how the universe worked. The Harvesters made no attempt at communication. Their scout ships began methodically scanning the Allied fleet, their energy patterns shifting as they attempted to categorize and analyze the various technologies arrayed against them. They're trying to understand us, Sarah Chen realized. Everything we are, everything we've built. They want to reduce it all to patterns they can absorb. That was when Maya's quantum chaos weapon had its first unexpected effect. As the Harvester scans washed over the Allied ships, the carefully engineered mathematical irregularities in their reality warping fields began to propagate through the Harvester's own systems. The perfect geometric shapes of their vessels showed the first signs of distortion. They can't process it, Maya explained, excitement creeping into her voice. The chaos patterns, they're like a virus in their perfectly ordered systems. They literally cannot comprehend something that doesn't follow their rules of technological progression. But the Harvesters were far from helpless. Their response was immediate and overwhelming. Space itself seemed to crystallize around the Allied fleet as the ancient machines attempted to impose their own version of reality, one of perfect order and predictability. The battle that followed defied conventional description. The human ships, led by the Prometheus, fired reality warping weapons enhanced with chaos patterns. The Nexer vessels launched gravitational attacks that created zones of unpredictable physical laws. The Jiri projected crystalline matrices that refracted and amplified the chaos effects, while the Mrilth opened dimensional rifts that allowed attacks to strike from vectors the Harvesters couldn't predict. But it still wasn't enough. The Harvesters' technological superiority was too great, their control over reality too absolute. Even as their perfect geometries showed signs of corruption, they began systematically dismantling the Allied fleet's outer formations. That was when the quantum observers chose to reveal themselves fully. They emerged not as ships or beings, but as living equations that existed in the fabric of space-time itself. Their message, transmitted simultaneously to every ship in the Alliance fleet, was simple. The pattern must change. Unite your chaos. Sarah Chen understood first. All ships, synchronize your reality warping fields with the Prometheus. Don't try to match frequencies. Let them interfere naturally. Maya, broadcast your chaos patterns on all channels. The effect was beyond anything they had simulated. As each allied ship added its own variations to the chaos pattern, the combined effect grew exponentially. The quantum observer's equations danced through the pattern, adding layers of complexity that no single species could have conceived. The harvester's perfect geometric forms began to break down as they encountered something they had never faced in their millions of years of existence: true, fundamental uncertainty. Their attempts to impose order only added more variables to the chaos pattern, creating feedback loops that threatened their very existence. The first harvester ship didn't so much explode as unravel, its perfect mathematical structure dissolving into quantum uncertainty. The others tried to retreat, to isolate themselves from the spreading chaos. But it was too late. The pattern that had defined their existence for millions of years was broken. In the aftermath of the battle, as Allied ships rescued crew from damaged vessels, and Maya worked to contain the chaos patterns before they could spread beyond the battlefield, the quantum observers left one final message: the cycle is broken. Growth without stagnation is possible. The galaxy is ready for what comes next. The victory at Arcturus marked more than just the end of the harvester threat. It represented a fundamental shift in how intelligent life in the galaxy would develop. The Nexar abandoned their policy of technological suppression, instead becoming teachers and guides for emerging civilizations. The alliance formed at Arcturus evolved into a galactic council where all species could contribute their unique perspectives and approaches to advancement. Humanity's role in this new order was not to lead or dominate, but to inspire. Their ability to make intuitive leaps, to find unexpected solutions, to embrace chaos while creating order, these became valuable traits that other species sought to understand and incorporate into their own development. The Prometheus remained in service, not as a warship, but as an exploration vessel. Sarah Chen and her crew ventured into the unknown regions of space, seeking out new civilizations and new approaches to understanding the universe. Maya Patel established a multi-species research institute dedicated to studying the intersection of order and chaos in technological development. And somewhere in the quantum realm, the observers continued their watch, satisfied that at last, after countless cycles of rise and fall, the galaxy's species had found a path that led neither to stagnation nor to self-destruction, but to continuous growth and renewal. Years later, when asked about the legacy of humanity's first major galactic conflict, Admiral Chen would simply smile and say, "We didn't just prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars. We proved that the stars themselves were ready for a new way of thinking."